So now I'm going to teach you how to make sugar skulls. What is a sugar skull? This is a sugar skull. These are used to decorate ofrendas during Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. And then I guess the next question would be, what is an ofrenda? An ofrenda is an altar that families set up to honor loved ones who have gone before them. And it could be a family member, it could be a friend, or it could just be somebody that you, like Elvis, somebody that you might really kind of just idolize and honor, and you want to remember during this time of the year. Sugar skulls can be eaten, but you don't have to eat them. I really wouldn't recommend it because they really are almost pure sugar. So let me show you how they're made. And this is a great project to do with kids. It could be a Day of the Dead party. You actually could make them for a Halloween party too, and kids just love them. Easier than you'd think. You take 1 cup of granulated sugar. You take 1 teaspoon of this product. This is called meringue powder. And meringue powder is absolutely necessary. You cannot fudge and not use meringue powder when you're making sugar skulls. Meringue powder is available in a lot of hobby stores. I looked for it in my grocery store, but I couldn't find it. So you can get it in a hobby store. So if you've used 1 cup of sugar, you're going to use 1 teaspoon of meringue. And it smells wonderful. And then you're going to mix that up a little bit with your fingertips and actually mix it up fairly well so that you get the meringue and the sugar all squished together. And then you're going to take 1 teaspoon, that's right, just 1 teaspoon of water. And that's starting place. Now, I live in Colorado where it tends to be really dry, so oftentimes I have to add just a little bit more water. But you can see I'm just trying to get every single bit of sugar and meringue damp with that water. And this is very important. And when you've got it right, it should feel like beach sand. That's exactly what it feels like. And you're probably going to want to add more water at this point because you're thinking, I can't make anything out of that. But you really can. So I'm going to give you the fail-safe way to show yourself whether or not you need to add water. If you've got it right, when you pick up a bit of the sugar and you squeeze it, you actually can see your fingerprints in the sugar. So I know that this sugar is just about where I want it to be. And I move some things back out of the way. In order to make sugar skulls, you need to have a mold. And you can get these online. Just Google sugar skull molds and then pick your style. They're not very expensive, and they usually come in packets of 2 to 4 depending on the size. You can get them really small to make candy in, or you can get really big ones that actually, I guess if you lacquered them, you can make masks out of them. Just a piece of cardboard. I've cut up an old box that we had sitting around the house, and I use it as a scoop. And I scoop my sugar into it. This part's important. You don't want to use your fingers to press because you'll have fingerprints coming out this way. So just use your palm and press it down hard. And if you need to add a little bit more sugar in order to make the sugar flush on the back here, do that. Press it hard with your palm. And then use that same piece of cardboard that you've used before and just scrape it off like this. Place the cardboard over the back of your mold. Flip it and set it down on your tabletop or on a cookie sheet or whatever you're using to make this. And then slide the cardboard out. And then very gently, you lift the mold. There, you've got it. It takes up to 24 hours for these to set up. Once they do, they're hard as a rock. But at this point, if you make a mistake, if you don't take the mold off correctly and you decapitate the poor pup, just scoop him back up, throw him back in your bowl, and start all over again. These sugar skulls actually can be kept for years if you just put them in a plastic bag and make sure that they're out of mouse way, and then you can bring them out every single year to celebrate and to decorate your ofrendas. So I talked about decorating, and I guess that brings us to how to decorate your sugar skull. You can use traditional over-the-counter icings. The thing about those is that they don't really harden up, so I recommend using the kind of icing mix that you use to decorate gingerbread houses. And you mix that up in a mixing bowl, and all it is a little bit of that meringue, remember that, and powdered sugar and a little bit of water. And you just beat it up until it's smooth and fairly solid. And then I use these squeeze bottles. You can get them at restaurant supply places. And I use a pastry bag to get the icing into these bottles. If you keep them open, this icing dries up very, very quickly, so be very careful about capping them when you're done. And if you're doing this with kids, they're going to want to ice this like a cake, right? They're going to want to smear it from one end to the other. So it's good to have a demonstration skull so that they can see that it's really a very delicate process. You want to encourage them, and I encourage you, to just decorate with little drips and dollops into whatever pattern you want. And just be creative. Do it any way you want. And then if you're not planning on eating them, you might want to add some sequins or beads to add just a little bit of glitter to them. Feel free to name it. It's yours. Have fun.